guys, so today I'm going to be doing another unhaul video. The first one I did was actually back in December, and since then, over the past 6 months, I have accumulated even more books that I want to get rid of. I actually have about 45 books sitting right over yonder, and I don't even know how this happened, to be honest with you. I do want to preface this video and say that I wish that I could send these books to each and every one of you, but unfortunately, that's just not a possibility. All of these books are either going to my local thrift shop or some of my friends, so just giving that little disclaimer there, I'm sorry. Okay, so yeah, 45 books as previously mentioned. I'm gonna shut up now and go ahead and get into it. So the first two books that I have are the Complete Sherlock Holmes Volume 1 and Volume 2 by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. These are Barnes & Noble classic editions that I purchased a few years ago for like $5 each. I just wanted to own all the novels and all the short stories because I love me some Sherlock Holmes. But recently, or actually it's been probably over a year now, I went ahead and purchased some Penguin editions, which I will insert pictures of right here because I'm too lazy to actually get them off my shelves. I just have to let these go. They're so huge, they take up so much room. I will find you a better home, I promise. The next book is The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. I read this book probably 2 to 3 times in college and high school, and I just never want to read it again, so. The next book is another book that I had to read in college, and it is Redburn by Herman Melville. This is basically trying to be Moby Dick, but it's never going to be Moby Dick, and I don't know why my professor chose to teach us this one as opposed to Moby Dick. The next book is another book that I had to read for school. I remember that this was a special topics villains class that I did that I loved so much. We read things like Dracula and Othello, and this was one of them. It's called An Unpardonable Crime by Andrew Taylor. I didn't necessarily hate this book, but I didn't love it and I'm never gonna read it again. I'm sorry, Dr. Shinneman. The next book is, believe it or not, another book that I had to read for school, and it is Understanding Comics, The Invisible Art by Scott Mccloud. I took a graphic novels course in my final year of college. It was amazing, but I didn't really open this at all because, come on, you guys, I clearly already understand the art of comics, like duh. The next book is The Hole by Guy Burt. This is a book that I picked up because I watched the movie and really enjoyed the movie and wanted to read the book. And this is one of the very few instances where the movie was a million times better than the book. The next book is called Undiscovered Iral by Alison Burnett. I guess that's like a fun, like, internet lingo-y way to say girl, but I'm not feeling that. You can use a U if you're gonna misspell girl, but a Y, that's pushing it. I think this is like a new adult book that follows a girl who falls in love with her professor, and you know, I kept it on my shelf for quite a few years and finally decided that it hasn't been read, and I think I bought it when I was like 17, so I think that 8 years is like definitely the limit for me. And holy crap, I was 17 8 years ago. That's depressing. The next book is Rivers of London by Ben Aaronovitch. I just read this book a couple months ago. Talked about it in my wrap-up video, which I will link down below. But needless to say, I did not enjoy this one, and I have no problem getting rid of it. The next book is about serial killers. It's called Killers, the Most Barbaric Murderers of Our Times by Nigel Cawthorne. You may or may not know this about me. I'm a little bit obsessed when it comes to serial killers. It was kind of just a thing that I had when I was a teenager, and it still kind of fascinates me, to be completely honest with you. It does. Don't read too much into that. The thing is, I know about all these murders that they talk about for one way or another, either watching the movies or just reading Wikipedia, so I feel like I don't really need this book anymore and I'm gonna pass it on. The next book is called Young God by Catherine Fawn Morris. This is a book that I read last year. I was incredibly disappointed by it, and I just do not feel the urge to own it ever again. The next book is called Paint It Black, and it is by Janet Fitch. I recently purchased another edition of this book, which you can see in my birthday book haul, which I will link below. Don't really need 2 copies of the same book. Okay, so now moving on into young adult. The next 4 books that I have are all by Jason Myers. The first is Run the Game. Second is Exit Here. The third is The Mission, and the fourth is Dead End. The thing of it is, for me, is that these books are kind of like knockoffs of Bret Easton Ellis's books. That's the only way that I can really think to describe it. Bret Easton Ellis does it better, so that's all I can say about this. The next book is The Tragedy Paper by Elizabeth Lavon. I read this book last year and pretty much detested it. I think I did a video review of this one, which I will link below. This book was just god-awful, and not keeping it. The next book is 13 Reasons Why by J. Asher. I read this book when I was a teenager. I enjoyed it. It's got a lot of great reviews, but I don't think I'm ever going to read it again, so yeah, you understand. The next book is called Rosebush by Michelle Jaffe. It's a YA book about a young girl who wakes up tangled in a rose bush, pierced by hundreds of tiny thorns, paralyzed, and unable to remember a single detail from the night before. Based on how incredibly wonderful that sounds, I'm sure you guys are all wondering why I'm getting rid of this book, but I am. The next book is Living Dead Girl by Elizabeth Scott. I purchased this book a few years ago, read it in one sitting. It's very tiny. It was okay. It was really depressing. It was really dark, and I do, gravitate towards those types of reads, but this one, it's just not one that I'm gonna pick up again, so. The next book is one that's probably going to be a little controversial because it's a book that a lot of people really enjoyed last year when it came out, but I did not. And it is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. The hype was so big about this book last summer, and I don't know if that's part of the reason why I ended up not liking it, because so many people were like, oh, it's amazing, oh, it's so good, I love it. So yeah, I Bye, Felicia. The next book is How I Live Now by Men Rosoff. This is a dystopian. I actually think this is the first book that I ever did a book review on YouTube, so I'll link that down below. But yeah, I just wasn't super impressed by it. I didn't hate it, but I'm just never gonna read it again. The next book is Unwind by Neal Schusterman. This may be another one that is a bit controversial because I know a lot of people really enjoy this series. I have read the first few chapters of it and found it interesting, but since I first picked it up, there have been so many more books released in the series, and I just don't think I'm gonna be wanting to read about the same subject for 5 more books. If you guys think that I definitely need to give this another try, then let me know in the comments below and I will probably keep it. The next book is another book that I just don't really want to continue on with the series. It's The Maze Runner by James Dashner. I actually haven't seen the movie, but I'm gonna watch it pretty soon. Maybe the movie will encourage me to continue on with the series. I've read about half of this book. It was good, it was entertaining, but for one reason or another I put it down and I never picked it back up. The next book is The Selection by Kiera Cass. I picked this up when it was first published because I actually followed Kiera Cass on her YouTube channel and I wanted to support her, but more and more time passed and more people read it and didn't love it. I mean, the consensus that I get with this series is that it's okay. The next book is Blood Red Road by Moira Young. This was actually one of the first books that I picked up when I started watching booktube. I have read a few chapters of it, but I could not get behind the writing style. I don't know, it just kind of bummed me out and I never continued on with it, so yeah. The next book is The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. Now hold on before you guys bite my head off. Seriously, I know this series is so beloved and I have not read it yet, but the thing is I went ahead and purchased the UK editions from the book depository of this entire series, so I do not need an extra copy of the American edition. The next book is Strands of Bronze and Gold by Jane Nickerson. This is a book that I read in February and I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I was just kind of in the middle about it. It's not one that I'm probably ever gonna reread. The next book is Poison Study by Maria V. Snyder. Now, I read this book back in December, and honestly, it reminds me so much of Throne of Glass. The thing is, Throne of Glass, in my opinion, is so much better. So yeah, I'm just not gonna continue on with this series. The next book is The Season of the Witch by Mariah Fredericks. I actually just recently read this, so I'm not gonna go into a lot of detail about it. The next book is Ruby Red by Kirsten Gear. This is the book that was really popular on BookTube a couple of years ago, and since then have heard mixed things about it. When I look at it, I kind of just feel like The next book is Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge. This is a book that I read back in February and I had some problems with it, but I did enjoy it, but I'm actually going to be giving it to a friend, so yes. Okay, so these next couple of books are books that I bought when I was like 18 or 19 when I was trying to fill the void that Twilight had left. The first one is Uninvited by Amanda Marone. This is a book about a girl whose boyfriend dies and comes and haunts her or something. It sounded really similar to the Mediator series by Meg Cabot, but not as good, and it wasn't as good at all. The next one is Devoured by the same author. Again, this was just paranormal, mediocre fluff that I just don't need to keep around. Okay, so before I continue and show you the last 4 books that I'm going to be getting rid of, I just want to make a disclaimer and say we all have opinions on books and book series, and we shouldn't get down on each other for that because it's just our opinions. That's how it goes. And you know, the fact that I want to get rid of these books happens to be my opinion. Is I read Twilight back when I was like 16 through 19 and I loved the books so much. But then the movies came along and I freaking hated the movies. So until I no longer associate the books with the movies, maybe 20, 30 years from now, who knows how long that's gonna take. Until that time comes, I don't want to reread these books and they take up so much space on my shelf. So until then, I'm gonna say goodbye. Goodbye. Oh my god, I'm looking at the pile on my floor and it is so incredibly frightening. Dear God. In the comments below, I would really love for you guys to let me know if you've read some of these books and whether or not you think I should give them another try. Most of these books I have read, but there were a few that I haven't. So yeah, definitely let me know if you think I'm being a little too hasty. I understand. I value your opinion just as I hope you value mine. Also, let me know if there are some books that you guys have unhauled recently, whether you did a video, a blog post. Alright guys, so that's all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it and don't hate me too much. You know, please don't hate me. And I will see you in my next one. Bye.